Welcome to the Why Not Today podcast, where we celebrate courage, determination, and the power of saying why not today. I'm your host, Leslie Kane, and each episode we dive into inspiring stories of individuals who have taken bold steps, faced fears, and embraced the possibility of today. From entrepreneurs, artists, dreamers, to doers, we explore the moments when they said, enough waiting, why not today? Join me as we uncover the heartwarming, the audacious, and the transformative, whether it's pursuing a lifelong passion, overcoming obstacles, or simply choosing joy. Our guests share their journeys that inspire all of us. I started this podcast in honor of my father, Patrick Kane, who often did say, why not today? And remember, you're just one decision away from changing your life, or one why not today decision. So I'm excited about my guest today, Lisa Householder. And this is the first time we've met eyeball to eyeball, and we're virtual, but I always talk about connections. I've been saying recently, I really feel like God has taken me on a why not today scavenger hunt. And I was listening to a podcast the other day, and they were talking about connections and meeting new people. And as I was thinking, this why not today scavenger hunt idea, she's like, kind of in the podcast, immediately, right when I had that thought, said, kind of like you're on a scavenger hunt. And I'm like, that is such a match. So I am on a why not today scavenger hunt. So Lisa was introduced to me from my friend Tiffany. And then I found out we've got a gazillion connections. We'll talk about some of those. But Tiffany is married to a friend of mine that we used to go to church as kids. Didn't really know him, but knew the family, and our families have crisscrossed for years. And then he got married to Tiffany and got to know her. And I just happened to be, it's like one of those things, you're at that place, the right time. I was at an event that wasn't even I don't even know why I was there, except for I was just looking at things. It was in a seniors living facility, a Halloween thing. And the only thing that came out of that is Tiffany was there. She's like, oh my gosh, I haven't seen you. So we reconnected, and she's joined the Why Not Today community. And then she tagged Lisa and said, I have to meet Lisa. And so talked to Lisa and her journey. And oh my gosh, you've got such a Why Not Today journey that I keep the formula I'm finding. And so I'm excited to get to know you, your business. I know you're working in the senior community, which is kind of got a special place in my heart because I have worked and taught water aerobics for years, and so know a lot of people in that community. And I'm excited to hear your journey, your story, your courage. And then as we were just starting to talk, she's like, how do you know Lindsay Trout? And Lindsay was my sister's special ed teacher years ago, and still part of the family, and is good friends with Lisa. So it's so funny, just the connection, and I love it. So Lindsay, why don't you introduce yourself, kind of quick bio of who you are, and not your story, but and then a fun fact that you might not know about you.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me today, Leslie. It's been, an interesting journey. I use the word journey a lot and believe that the universe brings people into our lives for, many different reasons. And I'm excited to join you today to share my story with you. So a little bit of background about me is, I spent part of my childhood in Baltimore, but the biggest part of my adult life, I lived in
Moved
Altoona.
over the bridge?
Yeah, I lived in Altoona, Pennsylvania. So
Okay.
a big part of my story was, having a loss very early in life. My mom died tragically in an accident when I was 2.5. So I think,
Wow.
that started to formulate, a lot of things in my life. So, I lived in Maryland, and then my dad and I moved back to Altoona, Pennsylvania, for many years to help take care of my grandmother, who I now recognize had a diagnosis of dementia. So I lived in Altoona until 2009. And, my story was, dealing with a lot of, trauma in my life and, coming through that. And so, a lot of who I am, I think, has been, surviving different things in my life. Took me to the point where I am today. I took a bold step when, I lived in Pennsylvania and decided to change my life and moved to Virginia. And I met my wife and, married here and gained a family. So that's a little bit about me. A fun fact is, I was thinking about this. So My mother back in the 50s and early 60s was very active in a women's barbershop group, Sweet Adelines.
Oh,
It was actually international president. So fast forward, many years, when I was 19, I joined Sweet Adelines, and for over 20 years sang with a women's barbershop chorus and in a quartet. And it was a wonderful, wonderful part of my life. And I made many wonderful friends who I'm still friends with. So that's a little
are you
fun
still?
fact about something that I did in my life.
Were you doing it here locally in Virginia?
No, in
Okay.
Pennsylvania, in the
Okay.
Altoona
One
chapter.
of my
Yep.
one of my previous neighbors is part of Sweet Adeline
Yeah.
here in Virginia.
Yeah.
That's kind of fun.
Yeah.
All
So
right.
that's fun fact.
So, and I love, not that I love trauma, but I love people's story and their journey, that
Mhm,
oftentimes that trauma is that trigger.
mhm,
Or you don't realize it by looking back and like, oh, that prepared me for this.
mhm.
John Maxwell, who's a motivational speaker, and he talks often about failing forward to success. And he's like, when you have something that happens, pick up the lesson on your way up.
Mhm.
And so sometimes we don't realize what that trauma, wasn't anything that you had any control over, but you were able to turn it around
Right.
and realize that it was able to mold to who you are.
And I was thinking about that, like from trauma to triumph,
Mhm.
the multiple, traumas that, anyone experiences in their life. I was given a quote years ago from a very special friend of mine that said, adversity causes some people to break, others to break records. And I never forgot about that. And I think I tucked that in the back of my mind for many, many years until, fast forward to, kind of my story about starting my business, and I think of that quote often, because of
Okay,
the
repeat that to
adversity
me.
that
Adversity causes.
some people to break, others to break records.
I love that. Yeah, that's so powerful. So before we get into your courage story, what does courage mean to you? What's your courage definition?
Courage to me is survival,
Okay.
survival through whatever challenges life brings you. Um, and you need to have the courage and determination to either work past the traumas, or heal through them, and see the positive. I think in the positivity in adversity is a very powerful thing.
Yeah.
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 Encourage, there's people define courage in so many different ways. I mean, courage can be, working through an illness. It can be a relationship. It can be, just finding your path in life. And that's where I define courage.
And sometimes I mean, everybody on this podcast, obviously we talk about it and they have their definitions. For some people and some days, it's literally getting out of bed,
Yeah. Yeah.
getting dressed.
Mhm.
So yeah, life can be hard.
It can be hard.
Being able to survive. All right, so I kind of got a quick bit of your story, and I'm excited, and we'll talk about this at the end too, that you are going to be the lunch sponsor for the Why Not Today
I
Connection
am.
or this month, not this week. And so I'm excited about that. And so you kind of gave me a little bit of your story, and I'm like, oh, we need to have you on before the luncheon and share your story. And I keep having this conversation with people that there is, I'm calling it the Why Not Today formula. Like, we
Mhm.
have that thing in our life, we're a little unsettled, we're not quite sure, and we have that pivotal moment. Like, you
Mhm.
remember where you were, what you're doing, that you're going to make that pivot. So kind of talk about what you're doing. And I think there was a kayak involved with that pivotal moment. And
There
then,
was.
and
There
your,
was.
hear your courage story and how your Why Not Today formula.
Yeah, so I take a couple steps back, and before the kayak story is, it may sound a little silly to some, but it was a very spiritual time for me. So I had a pet in my life who was with me through many, many, many years, right? So she went through my divorce and my coming out and my move to Virginia. And she was really, my soulmate. And a few years ago, I had to say goodbye to her. And it was probably one of the greatest losses of my life, really. I feel like, it just really hit me really hard. And I was struggling, and I kind of reached out to the universe and I said, I need a sign. I need a sign that tells me that you're okay, because, I really need that. And literally, anyone that knows me knows this story because it was so powerful to me. This tiny hummingbird landed on a wire outside on our deck. And I'm like, okay, you're okay. It was that sign. And for weeks and months, and now years since then, this hummingbird appears.
Oh, wow.
When I think about it, when I am sad, when I feel that I need to have a sign from the other side that I'm doing the right thing, you know, I saw her this morning. I was sitting out in my garden and I was so happy. I was thinking about the podcast and facing my fears and doing that too. And, I saw that and I knew everything was going to be okay.
Yeah, mine is a
So,
butterfly.
yeah. So days past that, I said, you need to show me continual signs that that you're okay and that I'm okay. One night it was the moon. And it's the new moon that I now call the Molly moon. And every time I see it, it brings me such joy. There was a cloud formation when we were on vacation. I'll share that with you at some time. I can't do it now, but kind of fast forward about a year, I was kayaking on the Chesapeake Bay and I was struggling with what is it that I want to do for the rest of my life.
You were doing something else, right?
I've been in senior care for years. When I moved here, I was the client care director for a non-medical and home care agency. And I just, I worked for 3 different owners. I made them a lot of money, but I didn't feel like I was, being true to myself. Post-pandemic, the whole healthcare system seemed to change and shift. And I felt like I was challenging my integrity every day when I was meeting with families and I wasn't able to follow through with what I believed that they needed for their care. And it was just, I felt really bad. And so we took a trip down to the beach and I was kayaking, and in the middle of the bay, this beautiful blue dragonfly landed on me. And I'm like, this is a sign, in that instant moment, whether it was going back to Molly, bringing a dragonfly or transforming into a dragonfly, whatever it is that you choose to believe, it was a sign. And I'm like, okay, now I need to figure out what it is that I need to do. And from that
That was your
moment,
why not today moment.
that was my why not today moment.
Remember where you were, and yeah.
And that started a process of research. And, I wanted something that I could utilize my years of experience and my empathy and my integrity to help families, because I wasn't doing it any longer in my job. I was burned out. I didn't want to do it. I wasn't giving 100%. And, there was something that needed to change. And that was, that moment triggered that change in me that I have to do something. I have to find my passion. And that's really, the defining moment of, where my story began.
Right. And I'm finding a lot of people in your shoes. And I don't know if it's because of COVID that we kind of looked reevaluated, or it's the age I'm hanging out with, those of us that are a little older that have done things for a while,
Yeah.
that we've done it for a long time. And it's like, all right, I've got this handled. I was actually
Mhm.
talking to a friend of mine yesterday who is a jeweler and very successful, and him and his wife and another couple started a nonprofit. It's like,
Mhm.
you feel like, okay, there's more I can do. There's more
Mhm.
I want to give. There's something else in me. And a lot of people are like, done. Like, check the box, I'm this old, I'm out. But I
Mhm.
think I'm really finding, and it's probably just I'm attracting these people that are
Mhm.
like, there's more in me and I want to do more.
Yeah.
And I'm really trying to work with people to pull that out, to give people permission to say, it's okay.
Mhm.
You can go down that path. You don't have to, all the boxes that we have to check in life, uh,
Right.
of all the
Right.
perfect, get married, have kids, live in that house, buy your home, have that great 401k. It's like,
Mm.
all those things are not life. We got to live our life. So let's talk about, so what is your new company and what do you guys do? And I love the mission and
Yeah. So
what's
we
going.
we
And
came
when did
up
you start
with
it?
June of 2022. So we're at the
Okay,
2-year mark.
congratulations.
And so I did a lot of research and, I started researching companion concierge services because what was being provided in Northern Virginia, um, or home care services. And home care services have a really hard time providing high level companion services just because the model of their business is care.
Right,
It's not companionship. And I would get calls from families who would say, Lisa, mom needs 2 hours twice a week. And I'd say, I'm sorry, I can't help you because the home care agency has a 4 hour minimum. And they would hang up and I'd be feeling terrible because I couldn't help them and wondered what happened to them. Did they find someone? Did they end up having a huge crisis because they didn't have just a couple of hours of support? And
right.
so that's the foundation of like where we started researching. And there wasn't really many companies, if any, in Northern Virginia just doing
Oh no, you're
companion concierge services. There were some in New York, and that's where I, did station on the internet to see, what they did and what their platform, that what we would do would be to bridge the gap. And that's our tagline, bridging the gap, from independence to home care. Um, and we were working on the logo, and I'm like, I have to have either a hummingbird or a dragonfly as a part of my logo. So I use it's a service called Fiverr where you pay like $100 and it's
right.
sent out to multiple artists. And this wonderful artist from Pakistan reached back, and I worked back and forth with her, and she was the one that created, the Care Connect logo with the, kind of the rainbowish colors and, the dragonfly at the end, and it was really, meant to be, a sign of, transformation and strength.
Right.
So that's, how the logo came. And so I started the business while I was still working for the home care. And the home care company supported it because they understood the value of capturing the clients before they needed home care, because chances are they would need home care at some point. But let's
Right.
help them now for as long as they need help and then transition to home care. Unfortunately, I worked for a company that was a franchise. And although the owner supported me, the franchise did not. And I had been a part of this franchise for almost 15 years
Oh
because when
wow.
I was in Pennsylvania, I co-owned one of the franchises with a partner. And then when I moved to Virginia, I continued my relationship working for another owner. And after about a year, the owner came to me and said, corporate came to me and said, Lisa, you have to choose this agency or your own company. And at that moment, honestly, I felt relief and fear and, excitement because I knew what my decision had to be.
Right. No question
And
about
I just said to her, well, I need to think about it. And there really was no thought other than the fact that I didn't want to quit. I didn't want to quit. And so a few days later, my employment was terminated with the agency, which that's what I wanted. So I could
it. Right.
collect a severance package to get me through.
Yeah.
But, I went from a 6-figure job to nothing in a day. And I was happy. And I was
Now,
happy because I knew in my heart that this business could be successful.
I'm reading a great book called The Illusion of Money, and
Mm.
it has nothing to do with money. And it's
Yeah.
about, there's an abundance there. And it's available, and you created a great career. You
Yeah.
can do it again.
Yeah.
Talk about Oprah.
Mhm.
Oprah, if she lost everything tomorrow, she could have it back in no
Yeah.
time because it's in us. It's us.
Right.
And yes, it can be scary. And I left a successful corporate job and hadn't
Mhm.
replaced a full-time income, but I'm like, you know what? There's a better world out here. And that was
Right.
25 years ago. And so many people, the biggest question people asked me was, what are you going to do about insurance? I'm like, I'm going to buy insurance, and
Mhm.
knock on wood, I'm healthy
Mhm.
because I've got a great life.
Right.
I'm not playing that stress game.
Right. And I looked at, like, I worked for three different owners of this agency in Northern Virginia. And, I felt like I was being sold out because twice, behind my back and without my knowledge, they sold the business, and just walked in after having, multiple years of relationship with me, treating me like family, to say, oh, sold the business. Here's the new owner. She's coming in 10 minutes. And I just, at one point I said to myself, I'm not going to be sold again. I'm going to make that choice before. And, that's what I did. I made them so much money, and they didn't really care about the people, not all of them, I don't mean that, but not all of them, but it just was, an entrepreneurial investment for, some people. And, I think when you're in a business helping people, if the money comes, that's great, but it comes because you really care and you're doing the right thing and you're surrounding yourself by the right people.
Right.
It's funny, one of the people that I met that really helped me and encouraged me was Lisa Rigoni.
Okay.
When I first, joined Senior Resource Partners, and, I met with her, and she's like, as a business owner, Lisa, your value, you have a value, and you need to set your value, and, it needs to be separate than your employees. And she was, a great resource to me.
Right.
As well as many other professionals who work in the senior industry that I sat down with them and I said, this is my idea. What do you think?
And everybody's probably right on board. And I love the entrepreneur spirit, and I'm sure it's all over, but of course we know North Virginia, that people are willing to help and give you
Hmm.
ideas and
Hmm.
suggestions. I talked to somebody the other day, and she's a coach, and she spent an hour at lunch coaching, giving me ideas and suggestions to help me. And at the
Hmm.
end, I'm like, how can I support you? Oh,
Yeah.
nobody's asked me that. I'm like, yeah, we can all help each other
Yep.
and grow
Hmm.
together. And I think that's the beauty of being an entrepreneur, that we aren't alone. It
Right.
can feel lonely, but being able to have the wherewithal to know to reach out to people to
Hmm.
say, okay, I need some help, and can you help me with ideas? A
Hmm.
friend of mine is just starting a business, and her husband, who thinks totally different than she does, he got her a book on starting a business, and she's like, that's not how I learn. I learn by talking to people. It's
Right.
like, I'm not reading your book. Love you
Right.
dearly, but how you do this business? And she's like, no, I'm going to talk to people and have those conversations. So one of the things I'm doing with the Why Not Today message is in business is doing mastermind groups to help people
Hmm. Hmm.
support each other and help each other, called Why Not Today Unleash Your Inner Brave. To
That's
From the person who just
fantastic.
has the idea, like kayaking, has no idea where they're going, to the person that started a business or needs a refresh, to help all of
Right.
us help each other to grow. So the business is 2 years old. It sounds like things are going well.
Things are going well. Yeah, I was able to really just kind of align myself with really great people from the beginning. I joined the Loudoun County Senior Resource Partners, and there's phenomenal
I keep
people
hearing people about
in that group.
everybody is swirling around all those people. And I
Yeah,
have
and
a
Loudoun
business
Senior
idea
Interest, yep, Loudoun
that
Senior Interest Network. I'm on the board of
and
Loudoun Senior Interest Network. So, that's another fantastic group of people, and, the people that know other people. And, I've met the most amazing human beings, not, yes, they're senior professionals, but they're people who I've become friends with and truly care about. And, you mentioned Tiffany. I mean, she's one of the nicest people I've ever met. She just, would do anything to help me, and it's genuine. you
Yeah.
know, and you don't find that all the time. And, you know, I am so grateful for all of the people that have crossed my path. And, you know, I'm thankful to, you know, my wife, Sherry, supporting our dream, you know, and, you know, just allowing me the space to grow and to, you know, just continue helping people, which has always been my goal. My dad, I was taking care of my dad, and just another story. When I was in my dad died when I was 30. And you know, I was taking care of him, and my elderly aunt was helping to take care of him, but we were hiring people off the street, you
Right.
know, to help. And so, you know, he was a great inspiration to me, you know, kind of 30 years past. You know, he died when I was 30. I'm now 61, but I was thinking about him so much in the process because, you know, had I had services like I was providing for him, it would have made my life so much easier, you know. And so our services are as much for our families as they are for our individual clients.
Right. That's awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
such a big need for that.
Hmm.
So, how would you encourage somebody else to take that little idea, that kayaking, why not today idea, and put it into a business?
You know,
And it's not always easy, and you got your ups and downs, and we know that, but it's so worth it, isn't it?
I think it, you know, it's taking a step back, you know, whatever that means for someone, taking a step back and just being present in the moment, you know, and listening to your inner voice. And if there's something that's telling you that you're not feeling good about a job that you're doing, or, you know, that the money isn't enough, or that, you know, you're just, your day is mundane and you're not getting anything back, then you need to change whatever that is. You know, we have one life to live. You know, you can make a ton of money, you can have a house, you can have a boat, you can have jewelry, you can have all of the materialistic things that you want. But at the end of the day, you take none of that with you.
And we
Nothing.
may not have tomorrow.
And I learned that in home care. I worked with a lot of hospice people at end of life who lived in a big house and had a BMW in their driveway. And, you know, those things did not matter. So take a step back and look at what matters to you, whether it's, you know, your family, whether it's, you know, time at the lake, whether it's, you know, whatever that is. And you can make that dream come true. It's never too late. You know, I'm going to be 62. I started this business 2 years ago when people were thinking about retiring. You
Yep.
know, I have no
Did the
thoughts
same
of
thing.
retirement.
Yeah, no. People ask me that question. I'm like, heck no. What would I do?
Right.
Like, I know so many people that retire and they watch TV, and or I've heard so many stories of people, you know, work their whole life, save up to retire, to and then a spouse gets sick or
Mhm.
something happens. I talked to an HR person last year, and she said at least once a year, somebody that had retired within the year they had a heart attack and died.
Yeah.
I'm like, you need a purpose.
And when you
So
have your own business too, you know, like this morning, you know, I can choose to make appointments most of the time when I want them, right? This was
absolutely.
my first appointment today. So this morning I got my coffee, I went out and sat in my garden, you know, and did things that I enjoy. So I can work, you know, as hard as I want to, but I also have the choice of living my life and doing the things that bring me joy and happiness.
Yep. I would not trade it for the world. And I've been doing it for working for myself for 25 years. And
Yeah.
I went to last night, a nonprofit, they had their gala, their fundraising gala last night on a Sunday night. And it was supposed to be from 6 to 9. I did not leave there till 10:15.
Yeah.
And everybody else was going to work in the morning, and they're like, "Oh, I got to go to work." And I'm like, "Yeah, I don't have anything planned till 11."
Yep.
Sat on my
Yep.
balcony and read and did devotions this morning. Went for a walk, did some weight exercise. I'm like, oh, and then after I'm done with this, I'm going to lunch with a friend. I
Nice.
guess I am
Nice.
working doing this, but
Yeah.
you get to have that flexibility, which I love. So I always
Absolutely.
told in the beginning, I always try to tie this back to my dad. You didn't know my dad, but some things that connections like Lindsay Trout. he knew very well and admired her. Pennsylvania, we as a family spent lots of time driving through Altoona because we skied at Blue Knob all the time.
Which was
So we got
close to where I lived. Yeah.
right neither.
Yep.
And then companion care, like what you're doing is exactly what my dad needed, and he actually did create it on his own. He had a major stroke in 2000. Did not pass away till 2013. And when he had a stroke, like he was down and out, like
Yep.
unconscious for months. People are like, he'll get better. I'm like, there's no way. Well, he did. And had a couple of strokes. Finally, got lung cancer and then passed away. We're not sure how, but the day he died, he was still working all day, and he got his own companion care. So he was one of these men. I was talking to somebody who knew him last night that asked you questions, which was quite annoying as a teenager doing homework. But this was actually Ken Plum, who's House of Delegates retiree. But he was saying, your dad always asked the best questions, never left a conversation without something to think about. And so there was a young man, he did a program at a middle school. And there was a young man that was there and befriended my dad. And after my dad had a stroke, DJ came and helped him.
Yeah.
And he would find people like random strangers that all of a sudden were coming to his house and helping him with whatever. So he created his own companion care because, you know, he was a people person and he wasn't able to be mobile. He couldn't drive. He could walk,
Right.
which he did a lot. But you know, you'd walk in, and this is probably one of my biggest regrets is I would walk in really quick into the house to do something, to grab something. He's like, hold on, can you help me do this, this, and this? And our lives are so busy that I wish I would have taken more time to be there for him, you know, and to spend the extra minutes to help him do the one thing that was so simple. So what you're doing is amazing and giving people care. And I mentioned I taught water aerobics for 13 years and became great friends with a lot of people in the class. And they stayed busy, but you know, I would do a lunch with them, and we had an email list. If somebody needed help, people were there to help. So I think that's just such a big need out there.
It's huge. And, you know, I don't do it just by myself. I mean, my wife, Sherry, she works in the business, and I actually have about 10 people that work for me, companion concierge people. And, you know, it's a great opportunity for people to give back. You know, I have people who are retired. I have, you know, people who, you know, just want to work part-time. I have people who work full-time, but they still want to give back. And so, you know, the platform that I have is, you know, my staff get back as much as they give, you know,
Right.
because
Absolutely.
they're doing it for a reason, you know. And so unlike home care for me, you know, people wanting to work, you know, 12, 15 hours a day because they needed to do that, you know, I have people who really want to make a difference. You know,
Right.
they want to take that time. We'll do an hour if somebody needs an hour. No one really does that, you know.
Well, I might need to talk to you about my mom helping you, because she is almost 83 and
Yeah.
but very capable and still raising my youngest sister. But she loves to give back and do those things, and that gives. Oh, it just is such a blessing. She's always helping people. And I may have a customer for you too. So you just never know. So, well, I'm excited to have you be a sponsor for our Why Not Today luncheon, which we've upped our game. We're now having 2 sponsors every month. And
Nice.
I think I have guest speakers lined up till September. And I just had another idea for one. My brain does not slow down at all, ever. So, but yeah, I'm excited about where this is all going. So thank you for being our guest and
Of course.
your courage story. Thank you everybody for joining us. And on this inspiring journey, remember, every day is an opportunity to take action, chase your dreams, and make a difference. So why not today? So make sure you subscribe to the podcast. We're on every platform, including YouTube. Like it, review it, join our Why Not Today Facebook community. And of course, you can find all the links and everything under whynottodaypodcast.com, including some Why Not Today swag to remind yourself to be courageous. So Lisa, thank you for being our guest.
Thank you.
And until next time, everybody, remember, why not today? Ask yourself that question every day. All right. Thanks, everyone. Bye.